the biggest advice is to shift your focus. Find something positive, and we all have it, whether it be like that simple second. We all have the ability to shift the focus. And when you find the positive, go with it. Just stick with it. Make it be what gets you through the day. Make it be the courage that you're going to build up from just that second is amazing. But we just need to shift the focus. And again, remember, you don't have to change your perspective, because I think that's sometimes hard when we're facing something and you have these adults saying to you, oh, well, look at the bright side. Look at this. No, I'm going to be the first to tell you, no, you don't have to. But you can. You have the ability to shift on to something that you find positive. And look at those small moments. Be more aware that, that teacher said this today, and man, I felt really good. Okay, great. And I'm going to tell you this, if you're a student out there and you have had this experience with a teacher, regardless if you're still in their grade, whether you are a couple years later or whether you've graduated, had your family, please find them, because they were such an impact in your life. They were. And for that kid that's sitting out there all by themselves, I can't stress enough that there's a piece of your voice in there. And there is somebody, whether it's your teacher, your counselor, who sees that. And sometimes we need them to see something in us until we can see it ourselves and allow that. And then eventually, I hope you get the voice that you need. I hope you find something in you that can say, hey, could we talk a second? Or, hey, and it doesn't have to be the parent. I know that there are good families out there. And like you said, it could be a parent that's driving their child to the school. Parents, please understand if your kids can't come to you. Be happy that they can find someone that they feel like they can go to. And the kids the same way. It's okay to love your parent and not feel comfortable going to them. But I really do stress, find somebody and it's okay to let them know. I wish I had that courage in the hallway. I wish somebody saw me and said, you know what? You have a voice. You can use it. It doesn't have to be big, but you can do it. And again, find those little moments.
Okay, everyone, welcome back to Living the Next Chapter, the podcast where we bring amazing authors on the show. They share their journey as an author, and you get to learn about the person behind the book. And today we have Denise on the podcast, and Denise is going to be joining us talking about some moments, 30-second moments, and exciting to have her on the podcast. Denise, welcome to Living the Next Chapter.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here.
Excellent. First, I always like to start here because I have listeners around the world, and I might have listeners in your community listening to the podcast. Where are you in this big world of ours?
I am in Virginia, so south of Winchester, but in the big state of Virginia. Not from Virginia. I always like to point that out, but I'm here.
Okay. Where are you originally from?
I'm originally from Trenton, New Jersey. It's a little rough, but it's good.
There you go.
So culture change.
There you go. I love it. Excellent. Let's start with your author journey. How did all this start for you? There was a point in your life when being an author was maybe not even an idea for you, and now here you are. So something happened. Yeah. Something obviously happened. So can you take us back?
Yeah. So you're right. I never, a lot of people hear my story as I'm a speaker as well. And I talk, you could see more of that on my website, denisebard.com. But I'm a speaker and I really kind of talk to teachers. But I also talk to, people who have gone through childhood trauma can relate with me. Nonprofit organizations can relate, or how I relate. But yeah, so this book came about kind of pushed by one of my teachers who is in my book. My book is The 30-Second Moments and the Women Who Raised Me. And one of the teachers in there has been pressing me for years, like, you should write a book. You should write a book. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't think I can do it. I'm not very good at English per se, as far as like grammar and things like that. But that's wonderful thing of hiring somebody who can edit and do those beautiful things that you can't do. You can share your story. So yeah, she had really encouraged me for many years, and I just kind of put it off. And then kind of was like, you know what? I do this speaking and it's really kind of my book. So that's kind of how it came about. It kind of was easy because I had the story already there because it is a nonfiction. So it is a memoir, if you want to call that. And so, yeah, that kind of happened.
Wow. Okay, because that's the one thing I always find curious is we see the end result. You're an author. You have a book.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, as a new author that's listening, they're writing their book as they're listening to us. They've taken a little break to hear this episode. They're like, I just wish I was where you are. I wish I was at that point where I have the book in my hand. I can talk about it on a podcast and share it with the world. But here I am. I've got a few notes scribbled. I have a general idea of what I want to talk about. But I just longing for the day to be where you are. What would have been helpful for you back in the early days to hear on a podcast about authorship that would have inspired you back in the early days?
I think for certain is that you have this perception that books have to be really long. They have to be 300 pages long. They have to, and you have that pressure about it. And I think that too gave me a lot of pressure, is that I thought, in order to be an author, you have to have really like 300 and something pages, and can't be like, again, my book, The 30-Second Moments and the Women Who Raised Me. It's wonderful because my title is The 30-Second Moments, and it's really like about not something large. And once I got over that, I didn't have that fear of putting out. My book is 127 pages, but it's a book. It's something I wrote. I think once I got over that hump of not having that pressure of, well, if you want to be an author, you have to write this much, you have to write that much. And if I didn't have that, I think, I may have done this sooner. Obviously, too, that you have this wonderful world of being able to self-publish, which is another fear that people have. And I did too. I wasn't really understanding of the whole process of self-publishing, because that kind of intimidated me as well. So I wish I knew all these little things. I perhaps could have gotten it out, sooner. And it's funny, once you do it and you have it out there, all these things are in my head going, oh, I could have put this in there and this in there. But that leads to your potential of book 2, starting the next one. So you're not, don't be afraid if you're like, oh, I don't have all my ideas there. Do what you have and be confident in that. And then, when you publish it,
right. Good.
You have a very good idea of, what, I got a spinoff, or I have this, but yeah, definitely for me, it was the length. And then, the whole, I don't know how to sell myself to a publishing company, this and that. And then I just kind of started seeing more and more online about self-publishing. I didn't see anybody talk about short books, so I had to do a lot of Googling on that one. But it was there, and it kind of, I was like, no, I can do this. Okay. Sure. I don't know what's going to happen, but I am definitely can say that I did it. I so.
It's interesting. When you say that you were Googling about short books and having not the best success finding results, that tells me that as a person who's written a short book, that where you didn't find the resources that you were looking for, someone, and I'm kind of looking at you here in the moment, needs to kind of get out in front and answer that question on how to write a shorter book. Maybe that's a book idea for you in the future.
Maybe, right? Perhaps, or it's, get over the fear of writing and just write.
Yeah.
Right. Especially I think too, and I don't know this. Well, I can't even say that because I wasn't a fiction writer. 30-Second Moments and the Women Who Raised Me is about me.
Yeah.
And so for me, obviously writing it was, I say easier because it was my story, so I could tell my story. But I think it's the same process too is, we see these short clips of, not movies, but, you have like short clips of short little episodes of something. That's a book, it's okay. It's a precursor to something bigger, in the future as you build, it's going to get bigger. I guess that's what you have to say. But yeah, there wasn't much out there, and I had to dig. And it was like, okay, well, here we go. And I did find a wonderful woman who helped to format the book, who, didn't make me worry that I didn't have that many pages.
Good.
And so that did help me a little bit because, again, it's definitely something I would suggest is getting an editor, and I got an editor formatter. She's kind of same thing. And because I don't know the ins and outs, but it was okay. And that's the thing. It's my story, but I don't know how to put it into the binder of a book and necessarily like find all these mishaps and things like that. But there's somebody out there that does. Yeah. And so it was one of those things where, okay, it's a short book. It's okay. Look at, she's helping to, and she went along. And as a matter of fact, I had a chapter that was really short. And I mean, short, like, I don't know if I should keep that. And she was like, it's okay. And I actually had a friend read the pre-book, the I can't think of the name, but the not published, and so she wrote it or read it, and she was like, what the heck does that mean? I mean, she was brutally honest. She's a good friend. And she was like, you're what? Like, tell me what? And so it provoked me. And that's another thing, have somebody else read it. And it provoked me to, oh, well, I can expand on that. Let me tell a little bit more on that. And so, yeah, it's one of those where it was okay. And I like the fact that my title, 30-Second Moments of Women Who Raised Me, the 30-second moments kind of went along for my personal book, where my book talks about those moments that are so short and make such an impact that I look at it as, it's okay, it's a short book. It's going to make the same impact that a 382-page book can make. Right.
Yeah. Exactly. And I love that being concise is actually a great thing for all of us. I'm in the podcasting world, and people will have 15 minutes of content, but feel they have to turn it into an hour program. You don't need to. You can be a 15-minute version of your content and be done. And the same thing for your books. It doesn't have to, you don't have to add fluff and filler words and stories that don't really help, the subject. You don't need all that. Trim it back. Yeah. Make it something that gives people back their time and leaves them with the value they were looking for and the connection that you have in your book with your audience. It's perfect. It's great. Right.
And, when I was writing it too, is almost like an outline. So being able to write it about my own story, it was, and for me, they were chapters. Yeah. So when I talk about the women who raised me, these are women who were my teachers. And so each chapter became, like, each teacher became a chapter. And I wrote a lot about one teacher and a little bit of one teacher. I mean, it's the impact that they made on my life, whether it was, they were all enormous, but how much content I had in there, but it was okay because it was my outline. And that's right. Like, you don't have to put fluff. I actually took some things out because it just, it took away from some of the things. And it wasn't until like I kept rereading it. I'm like, why am I putting that in there? Again, goes back to the length of the book, feeling that need to do that in order to get the pages, in order to get the things. And so, like you said, when I took out all that stuff that could be in a different book, it made it more to the point, easy to read, and it's a story. Yeah. So yeah, I totally agree with the fluff.
Yeah. So let's take a little snapshot into the book. Pick out for me in the moment while we're chatting here, one of the women, the teachers in your book. And let's talk about them for a few minutes and why they're in the book, and maybe a little bit more about them and why their connection with you is so strong. And just pick one at random that is kind of sticking out to you right now, because we're going to buy the book and read about them anyway. But
thanks. I was going to say, man, how do I pick just pick one? So I tell this little snippet because, and I mean no less to all the other women, because they really, there's so much depth into each of them, and each of them got me to the next person. So this person was we'll say fourth person in, but the third teacher. Is that right? No, the second teacher. She was the second teacher. She was my math teacher, my favorite teacher, and not about the subject, because I loathe math, and my abilities to this day kind of, tell you I loathe math. But the 30-second moments of the women who raised me shows how my teachers, in the little moments that I connected with them, that actually went unknowing to them that they connected with me, impacted my life. And the teacher that I'll speak about now, it was something that she said. Let me give you just a little bit of a background just so you have an idea of why I say this. I grew up in a very abusive home. And so my teachers became my temporary moms. And they didn't know this. And so one day someone came into school that was coming to visit her. And my locker was right across the hall from her classroom. And I remember her calling me over to her. And I had really long curly hair. I spend a lot of time straightening it these days, but that's okay. But I had long curly hair, and she actually, pushed the hair off of my shoulders and then placed her hands there and introduced me to this man as, this is my Denise. Now, I went from a kid who was told, no one would want me, to like horrible things, to this split second of a moment when this woman said, this is my Denise. Didn't mean it literally. It wasn't like, her thought of, oh, this really is. It was one of those kind moments. But to me, that moment has stood like time. Every time I talk about it, I feel that feeling again. I'm like, God, I remember that. And because of that, knowing what it's like to feel wanted. I mean, because, I wasn't really sure that that's how people really feel, but to me, that's how I felt. I've been able to pass that to my kids. Like now my kids know what it feels to be wanted. Had I not had that moment, I don't think I could have given them the things that I can today. And each of the women gave me something to give to them. And all unknowingly. Wow. So, again, that's just one. I've got 6, 7 ladies in here who unknowingly did one small thing, but it made such a big story in my life. It helped me to write my own story, not just a book, 30-second minutes on the women who raised me, not just that, but just in general, my life.
Wow. Okay. So how old were you when you heard that, my Denise?
Oh, I was in 8th grade, so I'm going to venture to say maybe 14. Yeah.
Have you ever had the opportunity to tell that teacher what that meant to you?
I did. Actually, I found a connection that I was able to get her email, and I sent her an Amazon Kindle gift so that because it's on Amazon, so through the Kindle and paperback. So I sent her a gift of it. And so I haven't heard back from her, but I know she received it. It showed me. But I've heard back from all the other ladies. So all the other ladies are in there that hint. But I did see her. Let me take that back, because I did see her prior to my book once. And I said, hey, I just want to tell you your enormous impact. I didn't quite tell her what I tell in the book.
Okay.
And she was blown away. She was like, I didn't know that. Thank you so much. I think a lot of people are humble too. So I don't take that as a terrible thing when somebody might not react. I think there's a humbleness. They're just happy they can do something, but they don't know how to take that because, it is an enormous thing that I'm sharing with them.
Okay. So Denise, there's teachers listening to this. They're on their way to school. They're commuting. They're driving in. Just another day. I'm going to get up and talk about math in my class. There's going to be a bunch of students there. Talk to the teachers that you are so connected with through your book. Talk to the teachers that are listening and reinforce for them the importance of their platform, their classroom, and how that connection between teacher and student really changed your life and gave you the purpose and the desire to write this book. Just encourage the teachers that are listening that even though it might not seem like everybody notices all the things you do, those little things, right, do mean something. Let's encourage a teacher today. What do you want to say to them? Yeah.
Okay. So this is actually great that you're asking me this, because this is what I speak about. So as I keynote speak, this is exactly. So my mission is to empower and inspire and encourage teachers. My big tagline, we'll call it a tagline only because I cannot say this enough. A teacher's impact does not come within the subject that they teach. The greatest impact a teacher can give is within the moments they never knew existed.
Wow.
So for kids who, I mean, every kid is facing something that no one knows about. I can tell you personally, as far as like kids who are facing trauma that teachers may suspect but may not suspect. Um, Everything that you do, they grab onto. And I hate to say even the negative, but it could be one word that can make a child who doesn't feel wanted, who doesn't feel like they matter, feel they matter. And it's something so simple that you have no idea that you're doing. I had a coach who, put me in this headlock and just said, I think I'm taking you under my wings. Now, again, these are like simple, whatever, everyday things. But in the moment, for me as the kid who didn't feel like I mattered, she made me feel like I mattered. So I really like to stress to teachers that it doesn't take something big. I heard this once, don't let perfection ruin something good. So when you're looking for those perfect moments, like where you think, oh my gosh, I need this perfect moment to make an impact on a child, you're missing all the good things that you're doing. Like you are someone's hero and you don't know it. And so each kid, and this goes along with anybody. I heard a speaker say this once and I really gravitated to it. She said, people will hear what they need to hear in that moment. So every kid is looking for something, even sometimes they don't know it, but they hear something in the moment that they need to hear. And it again can be just as simple as this is my Denise, or I had a teacher just smile at me. And for the entire day, the angry inside hurt kid actually smiled the entire day. That's all she did was smile, but it completely changed me. And, I saw things in a different light, that the rescue for me didn't have to be spoken. It could just be in a simple smile. So, yeah, I think that teachers are the unsung everyday heroes. And so my book, The 30-Second Moments of Women Who Raised Me, I say that in there. Teachers are or actually somebody said it about it. They're the everyday unsung heroes. And I cannot stress enough, especially with teacher turnover right now and how, we're losing teachers left and right. I'm 49 and that scares me because I know that there's a kid in a classroom who just needs that teacher just to be there, like just to be there to, say something nice or recognize something, but not, again, it doesn't have to be something big because half the time you're doing it already. You are already making the difference and you don't know about it. But that kid does. That kid has grasped onto that one word, that one sentence, and kids will interpret them in the way that they need to. So again, it may not come out from you meaning a certain way, and that's okay. That's totally okay. It's because it's the kid who needs what they need to hear. And so not only do I, love to be able to talk to teachers, but if there's someone listening and that they've had a teacher who played that much of an impact in their life, oh my gosh, if I can just encourage you to go find them, because they might need you just as much as you need them. I had a teacher say, I never knew if I made an impact in a kid's life. And hearing me tell them that, it was almost like validating everything that they did and the reasons why they went into teaching. Because I think sometimes now we're losing teachers because it's not what they wanted to go into because we're conforming into different, we're just seeing so many different things and putting so much weight on them. But to be able to hear that from someone and say, just being you, being the person that you are, that in itself makes an impact and you are becoming someone's hero. But I hope that someday someone like me will come around and tell you that because I think you need to hear that too.
What are some of the other things that teachers don't learn in school in their journey to become a teacher that maybe they need to learn through you, through your book, through your speaking? What are some of the other areas that teachers can develop and what are some resources that you would point people towards?
My biggest thing, and this is something I can't stress enough, and I hope that they can take a lot out of that, is again, your impact isn't within the subject.
Yeah.
Okay. It is in those moments that you never knew existed. And I do wish teachers understood that because while, yes, they have to put a lot of, time, thought, and whatever energy into those subjects, that I've talked to future teachers, at college, and I'm like, please don't forget that. Please don't forget that there are these moments that are happening every day and you are making that impact. Because, I heard, I go into a college that these kids are getting ready to go out into the world of being a teacher. And that's their biggest thing. Oh, I want to make an impact. I said, that's great. And you are going to make that impact, but don't expect it out of whatever subject you're teaching. And that shocks them because I think that that's the biggest thing. I don't think they hear enough of that. So I don't know what teachers hear when they go into, their classrooms or college things, but I know that they don't hear that. Let me say that because I've had kids in these college classes just, not like, oh, I never thought about that. Or, you know what I mean? It was like a shock, like it can be that simple. I'm like, absolutely. If you're wondering exactly what that looks like, again, my book, The 30-Second Moments and the Women Who Raised Me, cannot tell you enough how simple those things are and how it doesn't take, much time. I've had a lot of teachers say, I just never thought about it. I never thought about it. And being able to give them through the book, real life, like I'm a real person. These are real women. Like I put their pictures in there and some of them have their names in there so that you can identify that this isn't a made up person. This isn't a made up story. These are actually real women who did something that they had no idea that they did. Mm. And so their legacy, and that's another thing, in these moments, that legacy of those teachers, it lives on in me, but it lives on in my kids now because I learned all these impactful things from them. They had no idea that I learned, but I've passed that to my kids and my daughter, when she has children, these are things she can say, oh my gosh, I remember I got that from my mom, but my mom got that from my teacher, right. Or her teacher. So yeah, I think, again, go out and get my book and really see the true impact, really see that there's true people out there and it's so simple. And these things that these women did many years ago, because I'm older, it's simple today. You're probably doing it and you have no idea you're doing it.
Yeah.
And that's the crux of everything is you don't know all the things that you're doing during the day. And simple. You don't even have to think about it. And that's the wonderful part too. I'm like, you don't have to think about what you're doing. But after reading The 30-Second Moments and the Women Who Raised Me, you might put thought into things. You might put thought into, oh, that sentence, simple sentence, I think that's going to help. Mm-hmm. Or, you know what I mean? It's going to make you think of the words that you use, but it's not going to change who you are. It's just going to make you more aware of how those little things really help someone.
Love it. I love it. And the whole idea about impact and how your impact can go generations beyond the person that was impacted initially. There's a quote that I love, and you feel free to steal it. It's around the idea of an apple, and that you can cut open an apple and pick out the apple seeds, and you can count the number of seeds in an apple, but you can't count the number of apples in a seed.
Oh, I like it.
So there's unlimited potential in one seed, and you can't measure the amount of apples that one seed can produce.
Yes.
That's amazing. And
look at all the seeds that were given to me. You know what I mean? It wasn't just it's all these different seeds. Absolutely. Right. Oh, I love that.
See? So, because I'm do it again through the lens of podcasting, and people will say I had one person listen to my show, so I'm not a success. As a teacher, I had one student that I impacted, so I guess I'm not that successful because I want to impact the world. But hang on for a second. What if that one person was impacted to the point where they wrote a book about the impact you had on your life, like what you've done? So your impact, and now we're having a conversation together on a podcast, impacting even listeners and more teachers, right? So your impact, that one little brush of the hair, Denise, has turned into something huge.
Yeah.
So
it has. Right? It has. And it's funny because people will say to me, why do you do what you do? Yeah. And I'll say it's because and I'll use the reference of my 14-year-old. I say because there's a 14-year-old kid right now who needs one teacher. Just one teacher. That's it. And that one teacher, again, going forward, that one teacher needs that kid too. They just don't know it yet. because they're going to hear it down the road when they're wondering whether or not they're doing anything. That teacher needs to hear from that kid.
Yeah.
But if it's just one, oh my God, I'm in. I am totally in, because I was just one kid.
Yeah.
And I know that one kid, me, it's just impacted me so much. So, it's just one person. It takes one person.
And I think students today are looking for that guiding light for them, that example they can look up to. They're looking at influencers on social media. They're telling them to buy shoes or clothes or listen to this music or follow this trend. But I think teachers can be the ultimate influencer and help kind of guide them and direct them and show them the attention. Again, I guess it's a big part of it is the attention. Maybe there's a lot of students that don't feel seen or heard. They get bounced in the hallways from class to class. And when that teacher walking down the hallway going to their next class takes a moment to stop and identify them and speak to them and treat them like a real human being. Yeah. That's meaningful.
Yeah. And that they become the beacons of hope. Yeah. And I said that too. 30-second moments and the women who raised me. I really cannot stress my book to teachers, but I had a counselor who did that same exact thing. She just walked down the hallway, and just the fact that she mentioned me by name to say hello, the kid who was feeling this pressure of sadness, this weight, just that hello and acknowledgement. I mean, she didn't do anything else. She just walked on, but she saw me. And just that alone just kind of lifted off this weight and pressure of sadness in me. So yeah, that's the simplicity of it. It doesn't have to be huge. It's just something so simple. And you're right. And they are the beacons of hope. And yeah, social media, whatever it is, it's nice to put a physical person in front of you that you see so much during the day. But it's that human connection.
Yeah. I saw clip online on social media of a principal that abandoned his office, got this little rolling cart, kind of like a food service cart type size, and he takes his office into the hallway. He walks the hallways, and that's his office. Everything he needs is there. He's got his laptop, he's got everything, and he spends his time with the students in the hallway. He doesn't sit in his office and wait for the students to come to him. He went to them. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what a great idea to get out from behind the door, and the principal's behind the door, hiding behind, the team. Yeah. The principal's out there in your face, in the hallway, rubbing elbows and fist bumping everybody. He's out there. Like, what a champion of, connection with your students. I love that stuff.
Yeah. And that could actually, so I was a bad kid too. I had my moments of not being good, being in the principal's office, looking for the wrong way to get attention, right? I mean, there's a lot of kids do out there. And I say, it's hard not to be frustrated with those kids, but I try to say, look beyond that, because you can literally change a child's behavior by giving them something simple as, I don't know, like, hey, I could use your help after class if you don't mind. Yeah. The kid who doesn't, whatever. And then, like you said, with the principal in the hallway, I mean, just that recognition outside of being in the office probably would have changed some of my behavior too, because you're looking for that attention from there in their office. Yeah. So if you could change and reverse that attention and find something positive, just something. I love it. Not going to say that there's not kids who are, too much, but I was one of those kids. But again, it's that simple connection. So I love that he did that.
That's amazing, right?
Yeah.
So you got to talk more about your speaking, where you speak, all that. I'm really curious about that. I'd like to know more about the audience you talk to. You talked about being in like university campuses and talking to future teachers. Yeah. There's people listening to this and they're like, oh my gosh, I need Denise. I need her contact information right now because I'm an event planner or I'm leading some kind of, event and I'm looking for a speaker exactly like you. Tell us again who you speak to and like, I need to know more about this.
Yeah. So a lot of that you can find on my website, which is simple, denisebard.com. It is going through some changes right now, but if you can bear with that, that's fine. I believe I even have my speaker one sheet, which will really kind of give you the guide. It's almost like my resume to tell you. I speak to my audience is educators because I really want to encourage, uplift, and celebrate them because nobody really does anymore. Everybody's here to give you work, and I don't want to do that. I'm not going to give you work. So when I go in and I speak to people, and I'll say people, when I go in and I speak to teachers, it's really to, hey, let me celebrate who you are and let me tell you the amazing things that you were doing every day, kind of like morale, teacher morale. So I go to elementary school teachers, to middle school, to high school, college for the kids that are, going to graduate going into the education. And again, I don't do workshops. I'll be upfront, because again, my whole thing is I'm not going to sit there and come in and tell you what you're doing wrong. I'm not here to tell your staff, hey, you've got more work, or I'm not going to ask you to get in great breakout groups. I'm not going to ask you questions, but you can absolutely ask me about, hey, can you tell me more about your impact? But yeah, so it's a passion. I want to uplift these teachers. I want them to see that they are a hero to someone. But yeah, on my website, denisebard.com, you can contact me there. I have an easy email. It's denise@denisebard.com.
Right there.
You can find it on my website. I have a business phone. You can find it all on the website. I believe my little speaker one sheet is up there right now. Yep. But I'll get that on there again where I've got videos and stuff that need to get up. But yeah, that's who I am. That's where I love, and I have a passion to do that. And I would love to come to schools. And if there is a teacher, an administrator, a coordinator, as you said, please reach out to me because my passion is to really lift these teachers up in a time that we really need that. We really need them to see how special that they are.
Good. Do you do anything online as well for like an online stuff as well?
You know what? I have done a couple virtual, with the having, the COVID pandemic and things like that. I've done a few of them, and absolutely, I love, however I can connect with them, I am here.
Love it.
And I do it all. Again, it is such a passion of mine to, I want that 14-year-old to have someone, and I want that teacher to know that they are doing that.
It's good. It's really good.
Yeah.
There's speakers listening to us who have never really given writing a book a fair chance. They haven't really considered it as part of their speaking portfolio, something that they could benefit them as a speaker to have a book. Speak to the speakers that are listening. That sounds weird to say. Speak to the speakers and just encourage them that, hey, a book is a great addition to you being on stage, having something to put in someone's hands that they can take home with them. Let's encourage a speaker to write a book. What's your points? What would you like to say about that?
Oh, they're a speaker. They have a story to tell. They're telling a story as a speaker. They're putting in whatever their focus points are, whatever they want their outcomes to be. That's a story. Put yourself into that book. You're telling the story. Obviously, it's different when you speak versus reading a book because you have that more personal interaction and more elaborating on things. Yeah. But that's where the book is wonderful, too, because if you don't have that time as a speaker on stage, say you're slotted 30 minutes, say 45 or 50, 50, whatever it is. Well, the extra stuff that you want to speak about, that you have the passion to speak about, put it in a book. You don't have a time frame on the book. And so I have a time frame on how long I could speak. And I could always go over and I could go under. But it's the ability for me to give this book as a background, or not a background, an in-depth of what my keynote is. So if you are a speaker out there, you've already got the book. Just write what you're already talking about and be more free as to knowing you don't have timelines. And if your speak or your book ends up being 127 pages, you know what? That's your book.
Right.
Some people have more, some people have less, and it's okay. Do it. There is such a great feeling of accomplishment when you do that. I love being able to speak and to get these audiences. But to have a book that can be in, like you said, someone's hands, someone that may not have the opportunity to see me speak. Even although my audience is all teachers, there's so many people that can benefit in my opinion, from the 30-second moments and the women who raised me. There's so many people who could benefit. It's not just teachers that make a difference. But I talk about my background of trauma, and there are people out there listening right now who have gone through trauma. Reading the book, they can find, you know what, I remember that teacher and what I felt from that teacher. It kind of recognizes all the wonderful things because we're so used to feeling all the tragedies that we have, but we have these beacons of hope in there. Let's, look at it that way. But the same with speakers, like, you have a book that somebody who is not able to hear your message on pages.
Yeah.
Your message can still get out there. It just may not be on a stage or in a classroom, but it's right there in a book.
Yeah. I love it. Denise, I love having you on the podcast. You have a brightness about you, and what you talk about helps so many people. It's excellent. Everyone, I'm encouraging to go to the show notes. We'll have links to Denise's website, denisebard.com. Definitely go there and reach out to her and let her know you heard her on the podcast. And when you buy the book, please leave an amazing review so that other people can hear and see why the book meant so much for you. Don't just put good book, great author, none of that stuff. Give something specific that spoke to you from the book. Maybe share part of the story that spoke to you, but let people know why that book is so important to you when you leave a review. It does help our authors for sure. Denise, I would love to kind of give you the floor as a speaker here to close off our time together. But instead of talking to the teachers, I would love to put you in the hallway. The bell just rang. Kids are in the hallway going from class to class. It's chaotic. It's busy. People are bumping into each other. But there's that kid standing by themselves, kind of off in the corner. They're going through something that nobody knows about. Maybe they're listening on the way to school right now. Mom's picked this episode. They press play, and I have to listen because mom wanted to listen to this podcast, whatever. They're in the back seat of the car, and this is playing right now. But there's someone who can speak to them in a unique way that others can't. And that's the way with your background and what you've lived through. I would love for you to kind of close off today and talk to that student. Okay. And speak to them and let's encourage them to find adults in their life that speak life into them and that they're not alone in this. Can you talk to them, please?
Yeah. I probably have more of a connection with the kids who are probably facing things at home. But I think any kid that is facing any kind of adversity, there is someone there. And I hope that we find the comfort in knowing that having a tiny piece of your voice and being able to connect somehow with that teacher. I like to say to kids that, we may be really facing really tough times, but that there's that one person. I've had it, not just in counselors that you have and not just in your teacher. It could be, I know this sounds hokey, but the lunchroom lady, something. Connect with that. And if that makes you feel good in any way, makes you feel like you matter, makes you feel live in that moment and take that moment with you. And so I can't stress enough that there is always someone there for us. We just have to be open. One thing I learned that I like to suggest to you is that you don't have to change your perspective on whatever adversity you are facing. It's sometimes impossible to be able to change your perspective on something. However, the biggest advice is to shift your focus. Find something positive, and we all have it, whether it be like that simple second, we all have the ability to shift the focus. And when you find the positive, go with it. Just stick with it. Make it be what gets you through the day. Make it be the courage that you're going to build up from just that second is amazing. But we just need to shift the focus. And again, remember, you don't have to change your perspective, because I think that's sometimes hard when we're facing something and you have these adults saying to you, oh, well, look at the bright side. Look at this. No, I'm going to be the first to tell you, no, you don't have to, but you can. You have the ability to shift on to something that you find positive and look at those small moments. Be more aware that, gosh, that teacher said this today and man, I felt really good. Okay, great, great. And I'm going to tell you this, if you're a student out there and you have had this experience with a teacher, regardless if you're still in their grade, whether you are a couple years later or whether you've graduated, had your family, please find them because they were such an impact in your life. They were. And for that kid that's sitting out there all by themselves, I can't stress enough that there's a piece of your voice in there. And there is somebody, whether it's your teacher, your counselor, who sees that. And sometimes we need them to see something in us until we can see it ourselves and allow that. And then eventually, I hope you get the voice that you need. I hope you find something in you that can say, hey, could we talk a second? Or, hey, and it doesn't have to be the parent. I know that there are good families out there. And like you said, it could be a parent that's driving their child to the school. Parents, please understand if your kids can't come to you. Be happy that they can find someone that they feel like they can go to. Yeah. And the kids the same way. It's okay to love your parent and not feel comfortable going to them. But I really do stress, find somebody and it's okay to let them know. I wish I had that courage in the hallway. I wish somebody saw me and said, you know what? You have a voice. You can use it. It doesn't have to be big, but you can do it. And again, find those little moments.
It's amazing. Awesome. Well, thank you for being our Denise today, Denise. I really love having you on the podcast. Thank you for what you do for teachers, for students. Yes. Wishing you great success, continued success on your speaking. And now that the book and all that's out there in the world, more people are going to find you, which is great. I'm looking forward to maybe book 2 comes out.
It's going in there.
Come back someday and give us an update and continue the conversation. So again, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate that.
Awesome. Everyone, all the information, as always, in the show notes. Head over again to denisebard.com. Everything's there for you. Denise, again, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey, well, thank you for listening. It's a new year, and we're excited to be releasing even more great episodes of Living the Next Chapter, and we want you to come along for the journey. Thank you for being here. If you know of an author that you would love to have featured on the podcast, an author that you enjoy, an author that brings you that excitement that you would just love to hear them interviewed on this podcast, I would love to hear your suggestion for a future guest and what would be a question or two that you would want us to ask them on your behalf. Go to livinginthenextchapter.com. There's a little speak pipe icon there. You can leave me a voice message. Tell me who should be on the show and give me some question ideas. And I'll use your request and reach out to that author and invite them on and give you full credit for the idea. livingthenextchapter.com. Would love to hear your suggestion, and thank you for listening. Catch you on the next episode.